I never receive a gift or give a gift, but what I don't reflect again on this unselfish love that giving is. I remember a day a long time ago on a spring walk through the cool mountains here. I stopped to rest by a brook and to take in the beauty of the woods and the new green things along the banks of the stream. And on this occasion, my boys weren't with me, nor Ruby. So the sounds of the mountain were more evident than usual. I guess I fell to listening. A long time, I suspect. Well, during the midst of this listening, a buzz of a bee led me to a little small flower hidden along the bank. And I can tell you that then and there, that instant, that blue flower, small as it was, led me into light. As surely as that flower had given its nectar to a bee, in a twinkling it gave its innermost secret to me. I don't really know how to say this, and I suppose the words don't make a great deal of sense, but in an instant, the flower and I were one. But not the flower alone, but the bee and the brook and the forest and the ground and the rocks and everything else. More than that, the mountain, the earth, the universe and I were one. The truth that nothing is external to consciousness became a living fact again as this very consciousness I am. And there was no space. There was no distance to measure, no separation between the bee, the brook, the wood. And of course, because there was no space, there was no time either. Well, in that moment, the lesson of giving became more apparent. Giving is simple, honest being, the identity that one is. Of course, that's not all there is to giving. There is the tangible gift. There is the gift to Caesar, that which is Caesar's. But the giving that I'm talking about here is just the honest being, the identity that one is. This giving is without regard or regret. It is without purpose or motive. This giving wants nothing in return because it knows that all already is, already a fact, already here as only. Well, that little flower, hardly as big as the tip of a twig, blooming without regard or regret for where it was or who passed by, bestowing praise or withholding praise. It was simply busy being a flower, and it would have bloomed its heart out if no one had ever come its way. And the bee worked to the resistlessness of the blossom, which held itself open, and it did not withhold either its nectar or its fragrance or its beauty. It gave all, and it did all these things by the irresistible, effortless action of gently, effortlessly, simply being itself, just being a small blue flower, a flower being a flower. And I couldn't help but note that the flower had no responsibility in the matter, because isness is being the flower and the awareness wherein it grows. Well, so it is that as one returns from the far country of make-believe, identity, apart from isness, he likewise returns to the honesty which is simplicity, and to the simplicity which is honesty. As one consciously is the identity that reality is being, he finds himself giving, as the flower does, as the mountain does, as the earth does, by just being what one is being. Now this effortless activity maybe appears as writing or reading or lecturing or answering questions or corresponding or watching flowers or children or grandchildren grow and prosper, discovering new wonders, but all the while it is the action of truth. It's the action of reality, of isness, God perceiving the illimitable aspects of himself, of itself. This conscious awareness right here, right now, the one you are, is that holy action in action. Well, there is not a generation gap. I don't care who says there is. There is not a generation gap. There is not a warfare between youth and the elders. How can there be such a thing really going on when God is all? Well, there can't. It's as simple as that. There just can't. What seems to be such a struggle is something other than appears, and more, much more. Well, what? What is it? The world scene is the echo of our own experience. The activity out there is our externalized experience, seen in tangible retrospect. The appearance of life out there is the tangible appearing of this life I am, this life you are. The soldiers, the kids, the police officers, the friends or the enemies are not separate from this one. Here and now, presently, making these words, listening to these words, being these words. That awareness out there is this awareness appearing tangibly in time. The multitudes that we see everywhere are the tangible appearing of the single only identity, the perfect selfhood. Now listen, the perfect selfhood is not self-destructive. It is not doing itself in. It is not waging warfare with itself. It is not even developing and growing apace. It is not even doing away with false beliefs. Only the belief of false beliefs is ending. Self is about the business of disclosing itself to itself. Self is being itself perfectly. Self is not being a false belief to be destroyed. All right, now this doesn't mean that the sights of a youthful rebellion or the communist incursion into what we call our way of life is an illusion. It's not a mesmeric belief, an error, or any other such thing, and most especially it's not a world belief over which we have no dominion or control. Appearances are first understood to be appearances. That is, just a sight being a sight. And then the appearance will be understood for what it is in fact, and not what it seems in appearance. Now, once it is seen for that is for what it is, and lived as that, rather than as what it seems, we will have done all that is required of us. We will not longer be bothered by that appearance. In fact, chances are we'll be blessed by it, or see it change to something else, or at the very least it will appear in a new, more revealing light. And it is certain to appear as infinitely more than anything that we could have ever hoped to see or tried to demonstrate. Well, once again, I'm asked, what is this mess that we see going on in the world? Well, each must answer this for himself. Because how can I tell anyone anything other than what I see? I can't tell you what you see. I tell you what I see. Well, what do I see? What I see out there is the retrospective resurgence of my own youthfulness. The retrospective resurgence of my own youthfulness. My own crystallization of old. I see the shell of old landmarks splitting and being left behind. I see the eternal and already perfect intangible isness or balance presenting itself tangibly. I see the belief of values being removed from appearances, to whom or to which belief had given all kinds of idiotic false values. I see the tangible day approaching, for the general recognition that a child shall lead them, that lest ye become as children, ye shall in no way enter the kingdom. I see in the out there my own intellectual defeats of times past. I see that which hath been is now, and that which hath already been is now. I see the already perfection of immutable changelessness appearing to belief as an overturning and an overturning until he comes whose right it is. That is, in simple words, I see light becoming tangibly discerned. I see deific good going on. I see absolute perfection disclosing itself tangibly. And of course, to disclose itself tangibly, it requires the sequence of events. As Aldous Huxley said, that sequence that tangibility requires. And what I see out there is not bad. It is not awful. It is not unreal or just a dream going on. It is perfection, being perfect. Neither real nor unreal, but infinitely more. Infinitely more. But it's only just the tangible. There's a lot more than just the tangible, you know. There's the intangible, too. Well, this is the calm view, or the quiet view, or the balanced view, or whatever you want to call it, that permits me to stand as an unaffected, unjudging witness of the scene I am. And to be a comfort to those who suspect that there must be more in God's design than a world so apparently bent on nutty self-destruction.